They must believe this stuff that they put out in the media, that they lie to us with, and the ways they lie to us. They must believe it. It sure seems like they believe it themselves. That's why we're an embarrassment to the world. The Biden State Department has been running foreign policy just like that. They tell these crazy lies to us. They use the same lies as their diplomacy, and then they really operate like they believe it, which is crazy, right? The Pentagon, Lloyd Austin, it seems like the only dude in the room that has shown any sensibility. He keeps, trying to restrain and curtail the war in Ukraine. But other than that, it seems like the whole lot of them is like straight up drunk on power that they just realized they really don't have. Good day out there, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well. And I come to you on a pretty important morning. So I want to talk about what happened last night. After a lot of posturing, after a lot of talk, and after a lot of deception, right, from people, for citizens here in the U.S., as far as a normal person, I think, for what they've been exposed to and what they think is going on. They've been quite deceived in the past month. But after all this, Israel finally struck back, and I'll put quotes around Israel, and struck back against Iran last night. So I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the bigger picture, and really communicate to my fellow citizens the truth about what's going on here. So we're in a whole different reality now, whole different world. Things have shifted. We dropped the ball. The West completely mishandled the responsibility and everything that came along with being a superpower and the world's major power since World War II, and especially since the 90s and what happened with the fall of the Soviet Union, disintegration of the Soviet Union, let's say. The West had a big opportunity to lead this world in a certain way, and we were allowed to talk. And that period of time really was most of my life. I'm 43, and it brought us right up until recently. And now it's clear that the balance of power has shifted. This has to do with military tactics, military technology, and then, of course, the will to implement and use these things. It's not the 1990s anymore. And this past month, with the way Iran struck Israel, and then Israel waiting so long to return, and their behavior in the meantime, it really tells you a lot about where things are. The reality on the ground, right? Who has the power? Who can do what? You know who looks weak if you know what you're looking at, right? That's the message here, is that despite trying to do everything to appear strong in their own media and in ours, if you know what you're looking at, the IDF, Bibi, and the state of Israel looks incredibly weak at the moment. So let's talk about this strike last night before we get into like a huge geopolitical discussion and history discussion. I'll cut them too. We'll make those separate videos. But as it goes, it all plays together, right? That's how this stuff works. Everything's related, and that's why in that vein, I hope to communicate to other Americans that it's time to care, because everything is related, and it's really time to care about what's going on as far as the decisions that we make as a country, both domestically and internationally. It behooves us, it behooves you to do something, to pay attention, to make sure things go down in the way that is best for our kids' interests, the interests of all of our futures. The last few years have shown that they're going to do what they're going to do if we sit here and let them, right? So, like, for a long time, everyone talked about, I heard from people that, they just didn't want to get involved in politics. It didn't affect them, and, they let it all happen. And these last few years have showed us that it affects all of us. They came for all of us, and they will continue to take our rights and come for our lives until we do something. So I hope everyone out there is doing good. Like I said, it's all related. I knew that was going to happen. Yeah, everything, the whole deal is all related, and it's important that you understand all the lies all across the board. And the truth is that right now we're being lied to at every angle. Got all these freaking hornets buzzing around me. You're probably gonna see them on camera. It's crazy. I got this big nest. It's just taken over this maple tree here, and I don't know what to do with it other than let it go and wreck it, ruin everyone. Hibernates for the winter, so it's massive. Like, it's so big. And anyway, I'm happy that I have a lot of wildlife and good nature life on my property. I have a small half acre, but I have a garden, quite a bit of plants, and I have a healthy bug population, man, that's for sure. Very, very healthy. Lots of worms in my yard. We had grasshoppers in the garden. I mean, I have definitely like an ecosystem on the property, and it's cool, man. We're gonna let that go. I don't spray poison on none of my stuff. I don't do anything like that. I just let everything go and try to do things natural, and I think there's a reason all the animals flock to my property. So, different story for a different time. So blessings out to everybody. Hope you're doing good. Let's talk about this attack last night and, basically the month of October, right? Quite revealing. So last night you had Israel strike back at Iran, right? After much suspense, the world's been waiting. I mean, geez, we had to listen to weeks of them talking about how they were going to strike the nuclear sites. They were going to strike oil infrastructure, right? I mean, like, there's such a PR stunt. And same with the U.S. The U.S. It doesn't do anything at this point but to back whatever Bibi's doing. Everything we say as far as diplomacy goes just seems to be lip service. I think the State Department's given up on Ukraine, it seems like, and all their attention is focused here, and rightfully so, because we're in World War III, right? It's already happening. We'll get to that later, right? Because really, this attack hopefully will de-escalate things, and I'll talk about what I think Iran's response might be, if they do have one, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But this is definitely going to set the stage for the next few weeks, and this, this start of the World War III that has begun here. So the important thing to understand is that we've seen a shift in military tech, in battlefield tactics, the way technology is implemented, and the way military and firepower is used. So we've seen strategic shifts also, and this is all from the side, our opposing sides here. This started in the Russia-Ukraine war, and it was really highlighted and has been highlighted as Hezbollah and now Iran has been facing off with Israel. So it's been pretty clear that all these countries, Russia, Iran, probably North Korea as well, they've done a very good job of aiming their military research and development and then technology as a response towards how we gear our military and how we wage war, right? We're the dominant power in the world. We were, and that was based on, we enforced that through our air power, right? All these aircraft carriers that we can put anywhere in the world. That was the 90s, right? And we bullied the world like that. We bullied a lot of second-rate militaries, if you want to call them that, with this type of power. Of course, airstrikes, right? Bombings. And in recent years, targeted strikes. So, these would be like guided missile strikes, right? We first heard them as smart bombs. So this is how the U.S. military swung its dick around, right? And we had the whole world scared. And when Israel started this war in, last year, in October 7th or whatever, in response to Simwar's flood, they were working on this technology or this type of warfare. They were thinking that their power and the United States power still held as the dominant one in any theater of war. They seemingly hadn't learned off the lessons in the Ukraine theater with Russia, because if they had, this would have been a foregone conclusion. They would have known. They should have known from their experiences in the Ukraine that this would have happened. They knew the air defense systems that they were up against as far as Russia's air defense technology and capabilities. And I think they knew what Iran, had cooking as well, right? And then recently we had Putin and Iran basically sign a military treaty, and no doubt about it, he hooked them up with air defense systems that were used last night. I don't know. I think like the S-400, which was all over Ukraine, used by Russia. It basically made our Air Force and our strike capabilities impotent, with the exception of drone delivery. That's what made, one of the things that came out of that theater of wars is the realization of how impactful and useful drones can be. And so much so that our $1 billion worth of technology has been rendered pretty much useless by Russia's air defense and their other systems that they developed, especially like their jamming technology and things like that. So they've been rendered useless, and then these cheap drones are able to fly in literally under the radar and strike targets that huge ammo depot hit that seemed to be a tactical nuke was delivered by a drone, right? So things have changed, and the reason those drones are so important, one second, have changed, and the reason that these drones have become useful and important in the Ukraine theater is due to Russia's air defense. So, last night was no surprise. In the few weeks leading up to it, I'm looking at this thing, and really this is what I saw coming. The degree to which the strikes on Israel were downplayed in our media here in America is just crazy. It's crazy. It's literally insane. This is why I say that we're easily in World War III. How many of you saw what happened? I mean, we had strikes hitting a major, Western, quote unquote, really a, corporate oligarchical neo-colonial colony holding, but a Western state. We had missile strikes hitting them in their cities, and all over the country. Wherever Iran wanted to put their missiles, they put them. And it just so happened that that strike also highlighted some of these changes that we're seeing in the way war's being waged, because Iran has been very careful to strike only military targets, and we've seen Hezbollah take this tactic up, and due to that, now the killing of Lebanese citizens looks even more horrific, right? If Hezbollah is indiscriminately just killing Israeli citizens, right, it's a different story. They look more like the terrorists that Israel wants to make them out to be. But when you take this tactic of Iran, and the way that they're fighting, which again was, in my opinion, this is gleaned off of how Russia has been conducting themselves in the Ukraine theater. The restraint that Russia has shown, a lot was learned from that. I mean, it was easy to see the West exposed themselves through Putin's restraint, and same has been true with Israel here, right? So when Iran conducted these strikes and put these missiles wherever they wanted on military targets, right, showing the world who the real terrorists are, right? This really changed the entire situation of the balance of power in the world. And last night's strike really proved this much. So, the weeks leading up to this, Western media, they tried to act like nothing really happened. I mean, there's literally just straight up lies, reports on news channels saying that no missiles struck, nothing was hit, everything across the board, and the truth is that they smashed all these military targets and struck all over Israel with ballistic missiles. Also these hypersonic missiles, right? That's the key to this as well, is they have this hypersonic delivery technology, which has been there the entire Russia-Ukraine war as well. Putin, it's interesting. The one thing I think Putin hasn't done in that war is, I think he didn't design his military around missiles and ballistic missiles and hypersonic missiles in quantity the way that Iran had. And certainly, no doubt he's already pivoting in that direction. Prior to this strategy of large-scale missile strikes, overwhelming air defense systems, the smart bomb when it first came around, but guided missile technology, this was something only used by the West in more of like singular fashions. Think about how many missiles can a Western military shoot off from one of their subs, right? Other than that, all their stuff is air delivered, okay? Which means it has to be on a jet in the air. The jet has to get within range, and then it has to deliver, fire off the missile. Iran has a different situation, and they've implemented a different military strategy. They can fire off large amounts missiles from ground positions. Almost, and the combination of these overwhelming offensive missile volleys with a superior, let's call it what it is, a superior air defense system, really is rendering these Western military strategies and capabilities of air delivery missiles, Air Force in general, and sea power almost useless. I mean, think about all of our aircraft carriers and all of our Navy, right? Our Navy is basically just target practice for these hypersonic missiles and for Iran at this point. We don't have anything that can stop those missiles. So they can put whatever size ordnance up to the weight that these things can carry, right? And put them wherever they want. So essentially, like, our entire Navy is just like billion-dollar paperweights at this point, with thousands and thousands of American lives sitting on them, just sitting there. So, like, let's talk about the strike last night. Through that framework, I'm pretty sure. I really look for reports about it. I saw some different pieces of information, but then I failed to see any solid reporting on it that I could, reproduce. Take the link, reproduce, whatever. Just see it in big enough words where it was spelled out. But it certainly seems like the initial strike from Iran took out a whole fleet of F-35s. This was a primary tool in Israel's bombing of Gaza, and their air assault of civilians in Gaza and in Beirut, or Lebanon, all over Lebanon, right, recently. And I did see reports after that strike that people in Lebanon were saying, and in Gaza, that were saying that the patterns of the Israeli Air Force, their bombing patterns day by day, had changed, and they had slowed down considerably. So this would match the report of these F-35s now missing or being compromised through the Iranian strike. So I had seen reports of this, and then I also seen after this that it was a few days later that we decided we would send a whole group, 20 or 30. It was a big group of F-35s over, but with American pilots, right? So in the weeks leading up to this, I'm thinking, shit, man, now we have our guys over there flying. Not only are our servicemen sitting in the carriers and all the naval ships, right? But sitting in the carriers, ready to send off our jets to do whatever, right? But they're sitting ducks. But now we have pilots in our jets actually taking aggressive strike runs, potentially here being involved in this strike against Iran. I was quite worried about this, especially considering the fact that that's why we won't send any more planes to Ukraine, right? And we don't want him to use those F-16s, they'll shoot them down. We're going to lose our planes if we send him over there, and if he uses these F-16s. So that's what the concern is here, right? I'm worried about our guys over there flying, doing these missions for Israel, which they shouldn't be doing in the first place. But second of all, they're going against superior systems that have a strong likelihood of taking them down, right? So last night, I had heard reports that there were F-35s that were downed, right? And I wasn't sure how many planes, what this strike all entailed. But I seen this morning that there was over 100 fighter jets involved in this strike. which is insane. Bear in mind, I haven't stated this whole time that we haven't seen anything. It didn't produce any damage, it seems like, right? So, but before we get to that, it seems like I saw reports that there were potentially some of these F-35s downed over Iranian soil last night. So, it could be the case that we could have American pilots that could have ejected out, potentially already be in Iranian hands. That's if they ejected in time, right? So, but it looks like none of these, like nothing happened last night. It looks like the air defense systems that Iran has from Russia and, their own technology they have employed there did their job. And it looks as though it was a big nothing burger. I mean, this is huge. The implications of this are so huge. I mean, they took out, so there's reports they took out spots in Iraq and Syria first. So it looks as if they were attempting to carve their way through early warning radar or through air defenses so they could get all the way through to Iran. It looks like there were strikes that were attempted in Tehran. It looks as though air defense systems went off in Tehran, so it looks like they made it close enough to get the strikes off. But it sure looks like nothing went through. This is just crazy. The fact that they tried this, I mean, it really makes me curious, like, did they not expect this? I don't know what the play is, you know what I mean? If you're them, I mean, in my opinion, none of this should be happening. They should wage peace instead of war, right? But if you know that your technology is inferior, I mean, man, they really exposed themselves last night. I mean, it's crazy. I can imagine the lies that they must be telling themselves and must have been, right? You're talking about deep state Western officials, military complex people, all the war hawks in Israel and America. Imagine the lies. They must believe this stuff that they put out in the media, that they lie to us with, and the ways they lie to us. They must believe it. It sure seems like they believe it themselves. I mean, that's why we're an embarrassment to the world. The Biden State Department has been running foreign policy just like that. They tell these crazy lies to us. They use the same lies as their diplomacy, and then they really operate like they believe it, which is crazy, right? The Pentagon, Lloyd Austin, it seems like the only dude in the room that has shown any sensibility. He keeps, trying to restrain and curtail the war in Ukraine. But other than that, it seems like the whole lot of them is like straight up drunk on power that they just realized they really don't have. And that's what's so significant about last night. If that really went down the way I think it did, which it was a straight fail by Israel, I mean, this is completely huge. So like, what does Iran do? I mean, I hope that they punish them badly, right? People are saying, oh no, this is good. They've been showing restraint and da-da-da. And it would be good. I want peace. That's what I want. I don't want any war anywhere. But at the same time, Iran told them if they would attack back that they would respond harshly, right? Now, I think we all presumed that would be a response to like a major significant blow on Israel's part, delivered on the part of Israel and the U.S. I don't know if too many people like really thought a scenario like this would happen. But here we are, and I think Iran has the ability to really prove a point here. I think the move for them is to strike hard and heavy and hammer this nail in and bury this thing and make the West understand, what's going on here. If they don't respond, I mean, it's been unlike them to not hold their word. Let's just say that. They've pretty much done exactly what they say they're going to do. They haven't lied about things, just like Russia, right? So you have to expect a response, considering that Israel tried and the U.S. tried. It also looks like they didn't just try. It looks like they tried pretty hard, right? So let's look at it like, what if this was a major attempt, right? What if this was say 20 missile strikes, different story than if it was 100 planes and 200 missiles, 300 missiles. If Iran stopped a major strike like that, you have to think that they're going to spank them. I think that's what's coming. The West got to be shaking in their boots. Netanyahu got to be shaking in his boots right now. Let's watch as the truth comes out with this. Last night I seen a bunch of these different, mass media, and then Western media, and then the different compromised alternative media channels, right? And we all know who they are. And they come out talking about, oh my gosh, it's a massive strike by Israel, massive retaliation, huge retaliatory strike. And I watched it live, and I was waiting the whole time in the chat rooms I was in. We were waiting, talking about it. Maybe this is just a feeler. It looks like it was a failure. That's what it was. So you're going to see the media try to play this up, just like they were trying to act like it was something that was going to be big. I'm sure you're going to start to hear that was just a test and and this and that. And, so if you're Iran and then you see the Western media play it like that, like, geez, these guys, they really try to hit us hard, they fail, and then they can't even come out and come to the table after that. They're still going to come out and lie about it and position themselves and, try to maintain this power that they don't have anymore. You think they're not going to spank the shit out of Israel? Are you kidding me? So that's what we're looking at, man. Huge night last night. I know that I'm on the side of good, man. I know that God is great, and there are all sorts of warriors all across the world fighting on the side of good right now. And may God be with everybody. May God be with all the people in Palestine, Gaza, in Palestine, in Lebanon. It's disturbing.